Hi, my name is Tomie and I'm here to review with you Tomie. So, this wonderful book where Tomie's soul lives, was given to me as a birthday, Christmas present by a friend, and it's from the one of the most amazing horror mangakas, Junji Ito. So I really love Junji Ito stories because he takes on a special kind of horror, more in the vibe of dark fears. Most of his stories are not that fantastical like Lovecraft's writing, so it's most of the time based on people's dark fears, and they are very down to earth. Tomie is not is more like a fantastical story because you have this girl with an enchanting beauty that conquers both guys and girls. The girls envy her beauty, the guys just fall madly in love with her, and their love is so over the top that it transforms in a will to kill her, and they want to kill her in a very specific way. They want to chop her up in little pieces. It's a really interesting story of obsession. This book is not a continuous story, so like most of Junji Ito's works, it tells various adventures of Tomie, and it really explores Tomie's abilities. So when she is cut up, each of her little pieces start to heal and regenerate themselves until they turn each one into Tomie. So Tomie uh, doesn't gather herself up again, she just regenerates from each piece. So if you cut Tomie into 10 pieces, you will end up, if you let them regenerate themselves, you will end up with 10 Tomies. And her powers don't end there, so she heals really fast. So if you harm her, she can heal really quickly. And through the various small stories, you will explore Tomie's power. So in one of the short stories, Tomie dies in an accident, if I'm not mistaken, and her organs are transplanted to a girl that needed a transplant urgently. And what happens is that the girl slowly starts to turn into Tomie. Then there are various experiences. One of the last stories is a man that was driven mad, like most of the men that encounter Tomie, and starts to inject her blood into young girls because he wants to see her grow up uh, in the body of those girls and eventually become old and ugly, because he was a very beautiful man, and Tomie was always mocking his appearance, saying that he was ugly and average, and he just wants her to feel the same shame. Of course, Tomie always ends up victorious because this is a horror story, so there's no happy ending for the other characters. Tomie always wins in the end, and I find this kind of horror very interesting because Tomie isn't a likable character. So she jumps between being a very caring personality to a very arrogant and bad mouth woman, and she's mostly of the time a teenager. There's only one of the stories where she appears older. She even has short hair, and she even marries a man who already has kids. and his sons, it's 3 or 4 sons that he has, are interested in Tomie because they are already in the teenager, young adult age. So it's the only story where she appears older. So it was really interesting. I was kind of hoping that we could see her in the old age, but it seems that she doesn't go very far beyond the 20s, 30s, and she most of the time is a teenager. I really enjoyed the stories with the artists, where she was photographed, drawn, and sculpted. It was a really interesting story because it reflected the search for a muse, and Tomie is really inspiring in her beauty. And the way the artist, the painter, was able to capture the other face of Tomie was really interesting. It ends up with a really interesting painting. The way she appears in photographs is also very whimsical, very Junji Ito style, because Tomie, in her general apparition, it seems like a very normal story. So it's a girl that drives men crazy. She manages to make everyone fall in love with her. And of course, her hair is the talk in most stories. There is even a story where a girl has a box with her hair, and they start to put her hair in the face and everywhere, and it has really interesting imagery. I really like Junji Ito style. They made 2 ovas, if I'm not mistaken, of Tomie, where they told the artist story and the first short story where Tomie appears. It's really interesting because I feel like Tomie is an addicting reading, but she doesn't have a lot to tell. So it's really basic, the main story, but the way how the short stories are explored, and you start to uncover more of Tomie's powers and all that, uh, it really engages you, but there are not a lot of things you can say about the world that is built around Tomie. Um, she really has this. She seems almost like a critique to those beautiful women that have men basically kissing their feet. It almost feels like a simp story. So she's one of those beautiful women that manages to convince men to do everything for them. In this case, even committing murders and for them, because Tomie sometimes orders them to kill other people. So it really shows the power that some women have over men, and how blind men can be when they just think they fall madly in love with a woman. It's really interesting that Junji Ito tries to explore this kind of, it's not a negative perception, but it makes you wonder about a few things. I feel like it also explores the lore of hair being a horror thing, because you have a lot of comments around Tomie's hair and their short stories where her hair, a girl just starts to poke the hair in her face to try to be as beautiful as Tomie. So it has this hair lore that is very common in Japan and in horror movies from there. And I feel like it's really difficult to try to explain why this story, yet simple, is so engaging. And sometimes it has moments where you have certain innuendos that you find really. So the innuendos aren't the main thing, because you are focused on Tomie and what evil thing she will do next, but you have moments like a short story where a little boy finds her and she's all with really deep cuts, and she talks about being his mommy, and at the same time she kisses him in a very, I won't say it's a sexual way, and there's not imagery that support that, but it's a really weird, because you find it normal when you see grown men flaunting over Tomie, but it's weird how a little boy becomes so dependent, and he calls her mommy, but then she acts with him like she acts with men. So sometimes it's a little disturbing. You even have also the polar opposite, where she is a teenager and her father uh, is waiting for her to grow up and wants to somewhat take her for him. So it suggests some sexual interest. It's sometimes a little weird, and it makes you, it's small moments, but they make you feel uncomfortable, beyond the punchline that there is that Tomie drives people mad and she will end up cut up but returning. Um, so it's really quite something, the way some short stories are portrayed. And of course the art is mesmerizing. There are moments, it really stuck with me when there's a moment that Tomie is a baby, but she's almost like a giant heart with a face. The art is really, it's captivating and somewhat disturbing, so it really works well. Junji Ito's style is amazing. And I think one of the things that the anime doesn't capture well is the uneasiness that the manga give you. I don't know if it's the lack of color, the way Junji Ito draws, but it causes you some uneasiness. Although you are looking at normal characters, people with ordinary looks, so it's really quite hard to describe. And although I really like to see Junji Ito's collection and the ovas for Tomie, I feel like the manga has a different vibe and a different ambiance that the anime can't quietly reproduce. So I hope you enjoyed this review. If you have other comments or other things you want to say about this wonderful manga and Tomie's adventures, leave in the comments and tell me if you want to know more about other horror stuff. See you!